Hello and welcome into the 8.1 notes. This is our first section of notes on World War One. And when we talk about the causes of World War One, the biggest thing that we need to focus on is this acronym here on your screen, which is MANIA. And MANIA really is a type of acronym that we use because it focuses on the five main causes of what happens during World War One. So let's dive into the first one. So militarism. Militarism's been something that's been around, and we've talked about in previous units as things have started to increase in terms of nations' military spending. So we see this instance of places like Great Britain that are building warships, and Germany is more or less keeping pace with the British, and the British feel the need to then even increase the amount of battleships they have in their fleets. So what we see is basically through the age of imperialism leading up to 1914, there's a major arms race throughout most of Europe. And this race basically leads to armies and navies being very large and also very technologically advanced. So these new technologies not only are making weapons better, but they're making them more deadly in the process. One of the things that gets created kind of within this militarism lead up to World War One are weapons like the Maxim gun, the first machine gun that gets used as a way of increasing the amount of fatalities that can be caused by one singular person or one singular weapon. The Dreadnought battleships is another great example of this, that again, both the British and the German empires were in an arms race to create the largest and strongest naval fleets. The next of our letters in Mania is A for alliance. And the alliance system, this agreement between nations to protect and defend each other, was something that started to rise because of militarism. So this is almost a cause within a cause. Militarism and the growth of these nations created a need for protection. So countries would oftentimes band together to form these kind of alliances where, in the event of trouble, they would be protected. These two kind of loose alliances form during the early 1900s, the Entente and the Triple Alliance, with Great Britain, France, and Russia originally being part of the Entente, and then Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy forming the Triple Alliance prior to World War One. The next letter represents nationalism, and I know that this is something that we've also talked about a lot throughout our other topics this year. Nationalism focuses on this idea of, again, intense pride and loyalty of your nation and putting the goals of your nation above all else. And really what this leads to is kind of two main things that are going to be bubbling up during World War One and then even further on. The idea that powerful countries throughout Europe felt like they had the right to expand their empires because they felt superior. So we see that England, Germany, France, Russia, Italy, Austria-Hungary, they're expanding their empires either within Europe or outside of Europe in places like Asia and Africa. Conquered nations also start to get to the point where they start to feel their own nationalism and their own national pride. So places within the Austro-Hungarian Empire start to feel that they have a right for independence as well. One of the places where we see this nationalism or this growth of national identity within empire really start to grow is in what's referred to as Europe's powder keg, or the Balkan Peninsula in Southeast Asia. This region is dominated by an ethnic group of people that we refer to as Slavic people or Slavs. And in 1878, the country of Serbia is created within the Balkan Peninsula. And it's created with the idea that this would be a place for Slavs to be able to kind of uh, enjoy their own uh, nation state, but it doesn't necessarily include all Slavs throughout the Balkans. 1908, Austria-Hungary conquers another area within the Balkan Peninsula known as Bosnia, and this is an area where many Slavs also lived. Because of this, we see that Serbs get pretty furious in the fact that their their brothers, so to speak, are being captured and put within the Austro-Hungarian Empire instead of being a part of Serbia or some sort of pan-Slavic nation. So this becomes kind of a sticking point moving forward. I represents imperialism, which is something that we've talked about in our previous unit ad nauseum. When we look at this, again, it's this idea that a stronger country is taking over a weaker one. So we see empires throughout both what's happening within Europe and kind of some empire building like the Austro-Hungarians are doing, but we also see this with all the other European powers in Africa and Asia. And again, this means that any sort of war moving forward where you have European powers that are involved, it's going to involve more than just the European mainland, like other wars have that we've discussed throughout the year. These wars now will involve the entire globe. And our last letter and our last cause, that's probably the most immediate, is the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. The Archduke was set to be the next in line to the Austro-Hungarian throne. So he was eventually going to become the emperor and was assassinated by a group called the Black Hand for political reasons. The story itself is pretty interesting, that the driver of the car that Franz Ferdinand was in ends up making a wrong turn, and unfortunately, Franz Ferdinand is shot by the Black Hand assassin named Gavrilo Princip, and also assassinates Franz Ferdinand's wife. Because of this, and because of the fact that the Austro-Hungarian Empire blames Serbia for their connections to the Black Hand, this ends up sparking a large domino effect of all the different alliances in Europe to the point where by August, everybody in Europe is at war with each other. And again, you can see Gavrilo Princip here in pictures taken from that day in 1914. The jacket of the Archduke and his motor car from that day as well. Their funeral. And again, this kind of sums up what we have in terms of our overall causes of World War I. In future topics, we'll dive into the rest of the units, more focused on the actual warfare and effects of World War I. So thank you for listening.